Peace and welcome to the Atlantis School for Gifted Youngsters. Thanks for watching and subscribing to our channel.
So I learned this from more of an academic emphasis, and at the same time, you bring to this culture who you are. My old Earth, she was a social psychologist. So I grew up in a house, and I might have mentioned this to y'all before. I grew up in a house where we had a DSM-4. And that was the kind of home environment that I lived in. My father, both of them were a part of the Panthers. And then my old dad, he collected African artifacts. So I grew up with a sense of identity. And both of my parents were involved with the community as well. My old Earth at one point was the director of a recreation center. My old dad, he's a painter by trade. So in the summer times, he would employ me and our peers. I got 6 other siblings. He would employ us to work and make money in the summertime. So he would have 3 different houses being painted around the city in the summer, and he would pay us in order to work. So I grew up in an environment, in a household like that. So when I got exposed to this culture, what attracted me wasn't somebody being loud and ignorant and trying to talk smart. I know what smart is because I grew up in a household with a social psychologist. At the same time, certain things that I was able to see from a psychological and sociological perspective was very parochial to me, where I would see people doing things and trying to run game. And it's like, my old Earth taught me about shit like that when I was 12, 13 years old. That ain't nothing to me. You know what I'm saying? So what really inspired me is the youth advocacy, because I grew up around that. I saw the value that my parents put into our peers and us. We would have family talks and stuff like that. Like I'm talking about, my family would just sit down and come on, y'all, we gonna talk. Like we had different activities and experiences that I was able to recognize in this particular movement. So when I saw like the father, I saw his relationship with the youth at his age and them skipping school to come hang out with him and him have to tell them like, yo, you need to go to school. And if they had some illegal activity going on, he'd tell them you need to go turn yourself in and handle that. So he'd be giving them different type of advice like that. I've seen that before through my parents. So I know the value in it and I know that it works. I also know the value of not having hierarchies, where you got people that it don't matter what, they gonna be at the top, even if they don't know more than the people at the bottom. So just the religious aspect of what people got into, that wasn't something that inspired me or attracted me, and then my parents, they also encouraged us to be critical thinkers. You know what I mean? So having that kind of family backdrop, those type of dynamics helped me further appreciate what this culture has to offer in terms of reinforcing our identity. You got a lot of people that come into this for various different reasons. Some people, they may have been in remedial classes or stuff like that their whole career, and they never really had no self-esteem, and you give them this powerful sounding name and they walk around like, they feel like they're somebody now because they never felt like anybody their entire life. You have some people that come into this because they think that it's attractive for somebody to be able to use their words in such a way where it sounds good. And that's what they like. And that's why they're here. You know what I'm saying? You have people who come here that genuinely want to help and assist. You know what I'm saying? So you got people that have various different reasons why they see the benefit of this culture. Mine was youth advocacy and community outreach, and that's exactly what I do. I don't get caught up in none of the sidebar bullshit or people doing this and posturing to look a certain kind of way, and I don't get caught up in none of that shit. I'm about these children, and I'm about what we can do to improve the quality of life of our community wherever I'm at. And that's all that I'm about. You know what I'm saying? And some people are aligned with that type of mission, but again, you have people that have various different perspectives with how they carry out this culture. And a part of it is like what we were saying, depending upon who taught you, you're going to get it a certain type of way. And there's certain things that will be given to you and certain things that won't be given to you. Like I mentioned to you before, I didn't get the supreme mathematics and the alphabets up front. I learned that through walking with my educator, my enlightener. I learned the lessons the same way that we went through this journey in terms of studying the lessons. That is how I learned. The emphasis is on these lessons because that is really the bulk of our cultural curriculum. And it was through the process and then ultimately towards the end that I started to learn more about the mathematics and the alphabet because they're very ambiguous and broad. You know, a lot of people, and if you listen to people, you can hear how they emphasize the ambiguity of the mathematics and the alphabet because it gives them wiggle room to be able to say and do all kinds of stuff. Whereas if you have the lessons, you don't have that kind of wiggle room. You have to have a very concrete perspective of what this is actually saying. You know, so some people stray away from that because it don't give them the ability to be doing all of this maneuvering. Because ultimately that is also where you learn your code of ethics, you learn principles and you learn values at. If somebody's just handed the mathematics, it's really on their aptitude and attitude of what they're going to get out of it. And a lot of people left to their own devices, it don't look good. And y'all can see that. If there's no guidance, there's no structure, there's no blueprint for them, and just left to their own devices, they do exactly a lot of times what you see them doing. You know?